Welcome to Marriage and Ministry, a presentation for pastors and leaders under 40. I am going to share these very important secrets on how my wife and I have successfully built multi-faceted ministry based on a very strong foundation in our marriage. It's going to be a real blessing for you. So please, right now, I want to encourage you to share the link now on all your social media platforms. Invite other pastors and their wives to join, other leaders and their wives to join. I believe that is going to be a huge blessing for you. Let's have a word of prayer. Father, in the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, the Son of the living God, I pray that this morning, your servant, I stand before you, that you will use me to be a blessing to your people. We want to thank you. We want to worship you, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen. So let's begin our journey on marriage and ministry. First, I want to just share a bit of background, just a little story about my wife and myself. So in 1990, I was a 21-year-old pastor in a Bible school. It was in Titi-Offei. The Bible school was run by a church named Redemption R, and was a branch of Archbishop Bessie Idahosa's Bible School in Titi-Offei. I actually wanted to go to Archbishop Bessie Idahosa's Bible School in Benin City to study. I couldn't raise the money. I couldn't have the connection to get scholarship. There was about $600 something I needed to raise. I didn't understand all the things involved at the time. I was very young. So I was advised to go to his version of the Bible school in Ghana. It was then at Titi-Offei. So I checked myself into this Bible school. I was very, very sad because that was not where I wanted to be. And now I found myself there. Whilst in the Bible school, my spiritual father brought in some missionaries for some crusade at a place in Ghana called Konongo in the Ashanti region. So myself and a group of pastors were asked to join some churches for 2 weeks in order to be able to mentor and disciple the new souls. So I was away from Bible school for 2 weeks. When I returned to school, I had to go to the school's office to report myself that I had come. When I got there, Olivia was sitting down, that's Olivia, my wife, was sitting down with the secretary of the Bible school. Immediately I saw her, I knew I was going to marry this lady. I had no doubt she was going to be my wife. It was a young, fiery, spiritual, prayerful young pastor, and I could pick in the realms of the spirit, this lady would be my wife. So a few months later, I proposed to her that I wanted to marry her. She said, well, after Bible school, she was actually going to take other courses, and she wasn't ready for a relationship then. So the thing bounced. My proposal actually bounced. In between the times, I always felt that lady I met in Bible school was going to be my wife. I was a very vibrant youth pastor, leading very young people in our church. There were a number of young ladies who I could have chosen to marry, but I still felt strongly in my spirit that the lady I met in Bible school was going to be my wife. By that time, we didn't have phones and things that you could call. So how to meet Olivia, I didn't know. One dawn, 2 years later, one dawn I got up, prayed, fasted, Lord, show me the woman to marry, where is Olivia, and all those things. After the prayer, I came to town, I was going to visit my mother. Guess what? I found Olivia on the same street I was using. 8 months later, Olivia and I had gotten married. I was 24 and she was 22. We got married. Our first assignment was to work at my spiritual father's church branch in Teshi. After this year is 30 years of marriage. We started from nowhere, but today God has been so gracious to us. We ran one of the nicest churches in Accra today, the Pleasant Place Church. We ran the Accra Business School. We ran the Temple Christian International School. We ran pastors mentoring pastors. We ran the Ghana Academy of Pastors. We ran the Joshua Leadership Residency Program. We have mega conferences that we host every year for young pastors around the world. We have churches with branches in and outside Ghana. And today I want to spend some time to share with you how a 22-year-old girl and a 24-year-old boy started a journey of love that has ended up in us building solid ministries to the glory of the Lord. Pastors' wives, pastors' husbands are going through a lot of stress. Their spouses who are in ministry have expectations of them. The congregation also have expectations of them. People in society have expectations of pastors' spouses. These expectations are putting a lot of pressure on them. I want to show you how Olivia and I were able to manage these expectations to get where we have gotten to. The ideas I'm going to share with you, they are gold. They are going to help you. I can assure you, they are going to help you to become successful. The law of legitimacy states that you cannot speak on what you have not successfully practiced. So I'm going to share with you what Olivia and I have successfully practiced. I believe that Olivia has become such a blessing for me in ministry. She's become profitable for me in ministry. And I want to share with you how I made Olivia and how Olivia made me. Olivia, 90% of what I've become is as a result of the person I married. And I believe that 90% of what Olivia has become, maybe my own 100%, or what Olivia has become is as a result of she marrying me. And I want to share with you how we build successful ministries together. I'm not sure if my team has a video break, but we will continue. If they have a video break, we'll go some breaks and come back in, and then we will take it off from there. Okay? Fantastic. Now, so introductory statement. Pastors suffer from disappointed expectations because they expect their spouses to do by effort what they do by grace. I want to repeat myself. Pastors suffer from disappointed expectations because they expect their spouses to do by effort what they do by grace. So there was this pastor friend of mine called to deliverance. She's a very good deliverance minister. And his ministry, he's graced with long sessions of prayers, long days of fasting. I mean, he could do like 40-day fasting in a year. Almost every week there's fasting he has to do or something. And he has this amazing grace to fast. Amazing grace to pray for a long time. Long hours. One time I had a visit from the wife. And the wife felt that, listen, my husband is killing us with fasting in the house. When he decides to fast, he wants myself and the children to be part of the long fasting. When he decides to pray, he wants us to be part of those long prayers. I understood the frustration of the woman, but the husband did not. The husband felt that God is asking us to fast and you don't want to fast with me. You are becoming a Jezebel in ministry. The husband was very angry. So the lady came to see me. I invited my friend home and told him, said, my brother, I have the grace to teach the word and have the grace to pastor people. is because I am in the office of a pastor teacher. And my office comes with certain gifts and graces. My wife is not a pastor teacher. My wife is an evangelist. The unique combination of a pastor teacher and an evangelist is the reason why we are growing. Our churches are growing, our ministries are growing. And I said to my friend, I cannot ask my wife to do by effort what I do by grace. I said, because of your office, your calling, because of the uniqueness of your calling, you have this grace to spend more hours in prayer, more hours fasting in fasting. Your wife does not have those grace. And you cannot ask your wife to do by effort what you do by grace. That is the problem of many pastors and their homes. Because my wife has an evangelistic call, she's able to reach out to people, go out there, evangelize, go from house to house. I remember when we started the Pleasant Place Church on the Sprinters Road, people thought she was a Jehovah's Witness, or she was a Jehovah's Witness. In fact, she would go to every home, reach people on the street. That I did, but did not do it on the magnitude in which she did it. Hers was daily, mine probably was weekly. Right now in our church, she does more reaching out than I do. I would prefer to be in the office every Tuesday and Thursday. I sit down to do counseling. It is the beauty of the two of us discovering our graces and walking in those graces. And has really helped us. At one point, I wanted her to teach like myself. I wanted her to have I have the gift of encouragement. So my sermons are tilted towards encouraging people. She has this gift of evangelism. Her sermons are tilted towards holiness and purity. At one point, she felt I was not preaching holiness enough. I also felt she was being too judgmental. But then we realized that what I don't teach is what she teaches, and what she doesn't teach is what I teach. That blend has really helped us. I have the gift of leadership. She has the gift of administration. I see ahead, think ahead, move ahead, and stay ahead. She wants to take a time to organize the things I am overlooking. She comes from behind me to put things in perspective. We acknowledge our uniqueness, and that has really helped us in ministry. And those are the things I want to share with you today. Okay, here's how we did it. Now let's take this introductory scripture. 1 Timothy 3 verse 5. If anyone does not know how to manage his own family, how can he take care of God's church? So managing your family and creating a ministry family is crucial to you managing God's church. Your family is a mini church. How you build that family, how you build it, how you manage it, how you lead it, is a reflection of how you are building, managing, and leading your church. God first, family second, the church is third. Now let's look at this scripture. 2 Timothy 2:18. The Lord God said, it is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him. When I was going to get married, that was my focus. I was looking for a suitable helper. And that's what most pastors actually focus on. We need suitable helpers for ministry. Suitable helpers for ministry. But there is a big question. There's a big question. Where do you need help? Are you sure you know the help you are looking for? Because if you are looking for help and yet you don't know, most pastors know they need help, but they don't really know the kind of help they are looking for. So they worry their wives, you are not helping me in ministry, you are not helping me in ministry. Or their husbands, you are not helping me in ministry. But the question is, what kind of help do you need? Is your spouse aware of the kind of help that you are looking for? So the help must be suitable. You need a suitable helper. In other words, you must define the help you are looking for the person to be able to help you. Now, I want to share with you right now, man of God, woman of God, 6 areas of your life that I believe that you may need help. These 6 areas of your life really impact on your ministry. And you may need help in 1 or 2 or 3 or even all these areas of ministry. But the question is, should your spouse help in all these areas that have impact on your ministry? Does she have that capacity, or does he have that capacity to be able to help in all these 6 areas of ministry? Or she's called to help in a particular area that imparts your ministry. Now, here are the 6 areas that really impact your ministry as a pastor. Number 1, your spiritual life. Your spiritual life. I'm going to try to see whether, okay, I need to just, okay, so there's a crisis here. I want to be able to write. I have, no, can you make it smaller? Okay. Why can't I get mine? Okay, so let me try it here and see. Okay, so I wanted to just do some writing. Okay, fantastic. Okay, let me see what it's come. Fantastic. So, your spiritual life impacts on you. Seriously. Your Bible studies, your prayer life, how spiritual you are, how you are able to overcome the flesh and walk in the spirit has impact on your life, on your ministry. A woman may be called, a man may be called into your ministry to support your spiritual growth, to pray with you, to stand with you, to pray for you, to intercede for you. For instance, my wife will never stop praying if I'm preaching somewhere. Until I leave the pulpit, she will continue to pray. She spends basically 90% of her prayer life praying for me. For the 30 years that we are married, she almost every week, every day will be awake around 2 a.m. and would just focus on interceding for me. I remember one day I was going to preach somewhere, and the whole day had been very hectic. Have been in meetings. We had an unexpected visit from the National Accreditation Board to our university, and had spent almost the whole day, and I had a speaking engagement in the evening. I could not call the church to tell them I wasn't going to come. I had to go. When I came back home, I was getting ready. She saw how tired I was. She just said to me, honey, forget it. You go. I'm going to pray with you until you finish preaching. I mounted the pulpit. A sudden presence of God came upon me. With such a flow of the power and the Spirit of God. I was telling the congregation, as I'm speaking to you right now, my wife is praying for me. She's so devoted to my spiritual life. She monitors when she feels I am moving away from my spiritual fervency. So devoted to me. But it's not every woman who will be called to support your spiritual life. Sometimes that is where pastors think that every pastor's spouse must support our spiritual life. It may not be so. Certain women may be called to support your spiritual life, help you in the area of your, and they may have that calling to help you grow spiritually. Pray for your church, pray for your ministry, pray for your home, pray against attacks against you and other things. She becomes more or less like your personal intercessor. But it is not every pastor's spouse that is called to help your spiritual life. In fact, some pastor's spouse may be called to be responsible for your family. The woman might not necessarily, or the man might not necessarily be as spiritual as you will expect. But she may have the capacity to be able to take care of your family, your children, your children upbringing, the morning devotion in the house. You get tired, you come back from work, you are not even able, from ministration in churches, you are not even able to see your children's homework. You are not even able to see to your children's spiritual development, which must be a priority, but it's not all the time that you are able to do. How to host your family, attend to family meetings, external family responsibilities. God may give you someone whose main calling into your life is to help raise your family. Because the worst thing that can ever happen to you in ministry is to suffer from what I call successful failure syndrome. You may be good in your spiritual life, preaching everywhere, and everybody is celebrating your calling and your ministry. And yet, your family is breaking. Your children are becoming drug addicts. They are misbehaving in town. They are causing troubles in church, sleeping with the church girls, and then it's everywhere and it's destroying you. It's called a successful failure syndrome. So you can have a woman whose main calling is it to take care of your family. Now, sometimes one area that impacts also on your ministry is your professional life. And for those of you who are full-time pastors, your professional life, I'm talking about your ministry, growing your ministry, building your ministry, etc., etc., your professional life. You may be successful as a pastor, you may be successful as a family man, but your ministry may be dying. It's also another form of you suffering from successful failure syndrome. So sometimes, you know what God will do? God will bring you a woman who can really run your ministry for you. In this case, I'm not talking about a person pastoring for you, because see, pastoring is what we do in church. But there are other aspects of ministry, like counseling, like blessing marriages, like doing other things. God can bring a woman. My wife does it. I'll tell you why my wife is a 360-degree ministry wife. I'll tell you why. She does it. I don't remember the last time I blessed marriage. I don't remember the last time I did marriage counseling. I don't remember the last time. In fact, sometimes she administered the church better than myself, helping me to grow, giving me space to develop myself as a pastor. The next is financial life. This can destroy your ministry if you don't have funding for your ministry. A pastor friend of mine once complained to me how the wife cannot even do a closing prayer, how the wife is carnal, etc. So, but this friend of mine financially was very, very solid. She could buy new car, right? He had a very small church, but he was living very well. The children were in top schools. He had a small church, but he was not financially stretched. I later discovered that the wife has the very good work and was a wife that was financing the church. I went to preach for him once. I saw his church, the equipment, the quality of their venue, the quality of the equipment, the quality of the church. And then I asked, how are you able to finance all these things with a small group of people? He said to me, my wife. Then I asked him, why then are you complaining about your wife not being able to even do closing prayer? She was not able to lead a women's fellowship. What is your problem? This woman may have been called to support your ministry. You need to define which help you are looking for. What kind of help you are looking for. Then, your social life, the friends you make can really have such impact on your ministry. Sometimes the woman just becomes your friend or helps you build very solid friends. My wife is my best friend, but also my best friends are my wife's best friends. I'm not afraid hosting my friends at home because my wife will be there. She's actually strengthened the bond between me and my friends. Then finally, your health life. A certain woman may be called to just ensure that you are healthy. Because if you are not healthy, it has a way in which it actually impacts on your ministry. My wife does the same thing. Make sure I take my medicine. Make sure I see a doctor. She will actually book a doctor's appointment for me and ask me to go. Would that mean knowing? She would just get and say, tomorrow we are meeting your doctor. Why am I meeting my doctor? Because I've seen in the last few days that you are not sleeping well, or you are stressed, or I see this. And truly, when I go to see my doctor, there will always be something I am not doing right with my body. You know, so my wife, now don't forget, I've been telling my friends who come around and say, tell their wives, go and see Titi-Offei's wife, and the way Titi-Offei's wife is helping him. But please don't forget that I met my wife in the Bible school. She's a pastor in her own right. She's a pastor in her own right. And therefore, she's able to provide help for me in all these areas. But in some areas, she may be providing 10% help. In some areas, she may be providing 90% help. But guess what? She's able to offer this help to me for two reasons. Number one, because I help myself first. I try to help myself first. And then number two, I know the kind of help I need. All these 6 areas of my life that impart on my ministry, that really impart on my ministry, I know which area is imparting my ministry negatively, and therefore I need help. So, Pastor, you have to look at these 6 areas of your ministry and ask yourself this question: which of these areas of my ministry do I need help? Do I need help? Do I need help in raising my family because I'm too busy? Do I need help in growing spiritually? Do I need help on my health? Wait, what help do you need? Your wife, your husband must know the help you are looking for in order for him or her to be able to offer that help. This actually takes me to a very important session of this morning's presentation. The best way to build solid ministry marriage is to have a deal. The best way to build solid ministry marriage is definitely to have a deal. A deal in this case is not a word, it's a 4-letter acronym, D-E-A-L. So I'm now going to show you how to really build ministry marriage. All the ones I've done were just me introducing to you, laying the foundation for what I'm going to share with you. So now let's begin. So the first one is D. To have a deal, the first one is D, is discipleship. I guess you'll be surprised that, so who is going to disciple who? Let me show you something. Now, you need to build the spiritual capacity of your spouse for him or her to become profitable to you in ministry. Now, it takes a good Christian to become a good spouse. Let me explain this to you. My concept has always been very straightforward. My concept has been that I can only become a good pastor if I am a good Christian. I can only become a good husband if I am a good Christian. I can only become a good father if I am a good Christian. I can only become a good bishop if I am a good Christian. I can become a good friend if I am a good Christian. So the success of building ministry marriages is you focusing first and foremost on making your spouse a good Christian. This was my first commitment. When I met Olivia, she was a solid Christian. But I also invested in her spiritual formation. My intention was that once I make her a good Christian, I will have a good wife. Once I make her a good Christian, I will have a solid ministry wife. I will have a solid and good mother to raise my children. My wife is such an example for my daughters, example for my children. Her prayer life, her commitment to Christ, etc., etc. But guess what? 90% of she developed building her spiritual life is traceable to me. The people that got her born again, she got born again elsewhere, etc., etc. But when I met her, she's been born again just for about 7 years or less. The rest was for me to build her spiritual capacity. And I was intentional about it. Your wife is the first congregation member you have. And the method in growing people into ministry in our church, in our churches, is through discipleship. If you cannot disciple a soul, the soul will not move from being a member to becoming a minister. Don't just assume that your wife or your husband, once she becomes a ministry spouse, a pastor's wife or a pastor's husband, she already or he already knows how to do ministry, or he's already a good Christian. You need to take your time to build the spiritual formation, be part of the spiritual formation, the spiritual growth of your spouse, if you truly want to have a successful ministry marriage. Don't rush it. Be patient, because it takes time to grow a disciple. And I'm going to show you how I did it. So in my case, for those of you who follow me, I like to use acronym. In my case, I looked at the disciple as an 8-letter acronym and developed what I call a systematic spiritual formation strategy. So my screen is off. A systematic spiritual formation strategy. And took my time in building her and developing her. And ensuring that she can truly become a ministry wife. So quickly, I'm going to show you right now the 8 steps I took in helping build my wife for ministry, growing her spiritual life, and ensuring that she can be profitable to me in ministry. You can see on your screen right now. The D in discipleship is denying the self. Denying the self. Because I believe that the most difficult battle to win is not a battle against demons, against spiritual forces of darkness. It's the battle against the self, the carnal self. If your spouse walks in the flesh, you are in trouble. You must teach her how to walk in the spirit. I devoted time to developing the spiritual life of Olivia by helping her to deny the self, bringing her body under subjection. The sacrifice she has to make in order to grow her spirit. The battle between the flesh and the spirit. I took my time to educate her on it. The next thing I did in the spiritual formation strategy for my wife, the next thing I did was here, imitating Christ. Imitating Christ. I made sure that I was a stand imitator of Christ so that she can imitate Christ through me. I became an example of who a Christian should be. The next is seeking the kingdom. What I did was to let her understand that once we are local church focused, we must be kingdom minded. So, when I was even working under people, my wife worked with me as if she was on full time. When I was working under my spiritual father, my wife was not a pastor in that church. She was not getting paid in that church. But her commitment to that mission was amazing. Because she wasn't waiting for me to start my church before she shows her skills and her commitment. A lot of young pastors pastoring for other people, their wives don't even go to evening services. They leave their wives at home to take care of the house, and they come to evening service. And they think that when they start their own churches, they can get their wives to change their attitude. It becomes the same thing. Your wife is not a tither because you yourself, you're not a tither. And you feel that, oh, because you are in somebody's church, I think of another person's branch, you will not get your wife involved in ministry. It will come back to haunt you. You don't need to have a church before you get your wife to be part of the ministry. Let her be kingdom-minded. Let her be kingdom-minded. And that's what I did. Olivia and I did a lot of work. Wherever I worked, Olivia was actively involved in ministry in addition to a paid job, secular job. She would take on. I remember in one church, she was in charge of the women's fellowship choir. She would come from home around 7 p.m., rush to the women's fellowship to join the choir. She was active member of anything the women did. I mean, it was amazing to see her building solid ministry because she was a kingdom seeker. Then when we started our own church, we still decided to focus. I showed her people that have imparted my life, my spiritual parents, and how she has to. So selflessly, you will see her sowing seeds beyond the church. It has come to really help us. And then chasing God, I decided that I will let Olivia test after God. I showed her how to be spiritually hungry for God. Because like I've said, a good Christian is equal to a good pastor. So all this was to make Olivia a good Christian. The next thing I did was interpreting the scriptures. Now, for those who are joining me, I'm showing you how to build the spiritual life of your spouse. She has to become a disciple. He has to become a disciple. He has to be a good Christian to become a good ministry material. I'm a good pastor because I'm a good Christian. That's the foundational principle. You cannot neglect the basic tenets of the Christian faith, Christian growth, and think that you can grow in ministry. So I devoted my time in helping Olivia to grow spiritually. Today is benefiting me. I call her Sister Spirit. Some time ago I called her and said, but you since we married for 30 years, you have prayed every day, studied the Bible every day, waited upon the Lord every day. Won't you backslide small? You know, it's a joke. But then I go back 30 years ago, when we even started dating. The number of times we fasted together, the number of times we spent in the Ashimota forest praying and waiting upon the Lord has come back to benefit me a lot. So the next is interpreting the scriptures. I remember sitting Olivia down, showing her how I used to study, what I used to do, all my Bible studies, strategies, and everything. And then now teaching her how to preach. Do you want your wife to become a good preacher? But you are not involved. A few times I heard Olivia preach. I thought she did well, but I was giving her like 40%. So I called her, sat her down, and said, okay, this is the way we prepare sermons. This is the way you go about it. This is how you let your thought pattern flow. This is the way you should go about it. Up to now, if my wife has a preaching assignment anywhere, we spend time together studying the scriptures. When I'm going to preach, we spend time together looking at my sermon together. Now she's even become a better preacher than myself. In fact, when you go to our UK churches, they believe that mommy is a better preacher than me. And even in church in Ghana here, when she mounts the pulpit, people love the way she goes about presenting it and the practical examples she gives and all those things. She is my disciple. I made her. I made her. You can't sit somewhere and feel that your wife or your spouse can automatically become a good pastor because she just suddenly has become a pastor's wife. Listen, the journey from being a congregation member to a pastor's wife or a pastor's husband is such a big leap that you need new skills, new learning to be able to become effective. And then praying without ceasing. I've already mentioned how many hours Olivia and I, since we started dating till we got married, came here on Achimota Forest, in Achimota Forest. We hours praying, hours praying, hours praying, hours praying. Now, she's just on autopilot. You see her praying, you see her worship, praying, doing this, praying, doing that, praying. Because I committed her into learning how to pray. Today, young people dating, young pastors dating these girls, they are looking for flashy girls and they are buying them gifts without taking them before God. I'm virtually buying their love without showing them how to commit yourself to God and to ministry. It's a reason why many pastors' spouses are leaving them today. Because you have an expectation of the person and you have not yet equipped the person, educated the person, empowered the person to be able to meet those expectations. And then laboring with love. I also taught Olivia, we are not in ministry for money. We are in ministry because we love the Lord. We are laboring. This is a labor of love and a work of faith. She believed in that philosophy. So we set up the Pleasant Place Church and have never taken a salary. And the Lord has blessed us. I came out with a principle. The Lord said, if we work for him, he will work for us. He believed it. We bought into it. All of you telling your wives, oh, the ministry will pay us, we'll become successful, and we'll become this, and we'll become this. Do not start sowing these kind of ideas in the minds of your spouse. Let your spouse know that this is a labor of love. We are just working for the Lord. We are laboring for the Lord. And the Lord will reward those who diligently seek him. How he rewards us is up to him. Let's just go in. When Olivia and I made the decision, let's labor for the Lord. I remember when we were in Teshi. Teshi is a suburb of Accra, the capital of Ghana. And she didn't have a job. We had just gotten married. And I also didn't have a job. And I also had a job. I was pastoring. So she had a job. I was pastoring. But my salary was very small. He couldn't even take us. We've credited food around us. We couldn't have money to buy food. So she would go to the market and credit things. At one point, we couldn't go to the market because we have credited so much we couldn't pay. And the church members saw how we were suffering. So the MP in the area had actually gone to this church member's house and has offered a job of a secretary to one of the ladies in the house. And the lady said, oh, my pastor is suffering. The wife is a good secretary. So the man said, okay, let your pastor's wife come and see me. The day before she was to go, she had a dream that on the way going, it was raining and the tree fell on the road. Everybody could go beyond the tree. She alone could not. Eventually, when she was able to get beyond the tree and got to the place, they said she was late and she was giving gospel tracts. The man gave her gospel tracts. Said, you go and share this gospel tract. When you finish sharing, come back to me. Truly, truly, when she got there to start the job, the man had changed his mind. She came back home and we decided that until we finish sharing the gospel tract, she's not going to work. And we got involved in ministry. Please, don't go and tell your wife that don't work and then she comes home to sleep. There are a lot of ministry spouses who say they are on full time. There are even a lot of pastors who say they are on full time and their bed is their full time. TV is their full time. Food is their full time. No. Olivia and I in the morning from 9 a.m. we set up for evangelism. We will get home by 4 p.m. We did the work of God. We labored in love for the Lord. We labored in love for the Lord. I taught her how to labor in love for the Lord. And today, it has paid off. Don't promise that girl you are going to marry. Don't promise your wife. When the ministry gets, the Lord will help. When the ministry settles, we'll make money. We'll make money. Don't start chopping church money and give your wife, your husband, the impression that church money is for you people. The source is for the Lord. The money is for you. No. Teach her how to labor in love. Then the next thing I taught Olivia was evangelizing the lost. I said to her, the best way for us to grow anything is to evangelize the lost. And she's so solid. So with this, I developed a disciple. I developed a good Christian. And therefore, it was very easy for her to become a good wife. It was very easy for her to become a good pastor's wife. It was very easy for her to become a good pastor. We have pastored for 30 years together. I have never sat on a case involving my wife fighting with somebody, creating problems for me. No, because the foundation has been strong. So I've just shared with you having a deal. A D is discipleship. The E in deal is experience. Now, no school teaches you how to be a pastor's spouse. So the pastor has gone to Bible school to learn how to pastor. Then you marry, and immediately you want the person to also pastor with you. You went to learn how to pastor. The person didn't go to learn how to pastor. There is no Bible school that is committed to teaching pastor's spouses, take pastor's wives, and how to become a pastor's wife. You are probably a successful pastor because you went to Bible school to learn. Or if you don't go to Bible school, you learn probably under a pastor. And you have learned how to pastor. But your wife or your husband has not gone to any school to learn how to become a pastor's spouse. So you know something? I knew Olivia was in Bible school with me. But in the Bible school, they did not teach Olivia how to become a pastor's spouse. So I decided that she has to learn on the job. Experience. She has to learn becoming a pastor's wife on the job. Your wife is just learning to becoming a pastor's wife. And look at the pressure on her. No room for mistakes. No room for mistakes. She's always under pressure. Tomorrow, some church members say she has done this. Tomorrow, next time, they say she has done this. And everybody is praising her. You are happy. You think you are a better person than your wife. You learned how to pastor. Even if not formally, you did it informally. You stayed under many pastors. How many pastors' wives are available to be mentored? The pastor takes about 90% of the work. So if you're becoming a pastor, even by observation, you see more of the pastor at work and you can observe. But how many pastors' wives are seeing pastors' wife at work that they can observe? So I knew that Olivia at 22 has been put in a position that can either break her or make her. I decided to offer her support. She must learn by experience. She must learn on the job. But I said that for her to become effective, I need to protect her. I need to protect her. In protecting her, it was calling for mentorship. Mentorship. Here are the areas I took time to mentor Olivia. Here are the areas that I took time to mentor Olivia. Forget the writing and the rest. I didn't finish editing it, so let's just begin this. The first thing I did in mentoring Olivia was this. I taught her how to manage people. How to manage people. Because the pastor's work. Where do I get eraser? Okay. How to manage people. Because the pastor's work right in this one, eh? Okay, so twos. So, okay. So, the pastor's work is about people, managing people. The first thing I did was to help Olivia to develop people management skills. Olivia was an introvert. She kept to herself. I taught her the various group of people in the church. I told her about the snakes in the church. I said, Olivia, ministry church is like a zoo. There are plenty animals in this church, and I want to show you. I said, there are snakes. These are the gossips. They talk about everybody. I also told her that they are the doves, the peaceful, loving people. I told her that they are the lions. They are the dogs. They are the eagles. They are the horses. And I sat her down. I think I shared with her 14 people in every church and had to relate with all of them. And I was very intentional in this mentorship. I spent time. So I've spent several hours with my wife. When I finished this, she's waiting for me. We have something to discuss, a plan or something. The mentorship still continues. The mentorship still continues. Then the next thing I did was pulpit mentorship. I told her the first thing is that the pulpit is not for emotions. It's for the spirit. Said never ever be in the pulpit and try to deal with issues against people from the pulpit. Always be there, be led by the spirit. I said the pulpit is only 10% of what we do as ministers. So don't be too interested in mounting the pulpit. And she doesn't. She's not interested at all. But anytime you have the chance to mount the pulpit, know that this is only 10% of what we really do in church. But yet this 10% can be a cancer if you don't do it well. Can destroy everything. One bad statement, one bad sermon. You can preach a bad sermon one Sunday, and the next Sunday your congregation has reduced. So I taught her that this is only 10% of what we do, but it can either make us or make us. Anytime you have the chance to be here, honor the people, see it as the greatest opportunity ever the Lord has given you. You are standing in the place of God. I developed her puppy skills, oratorical skills, mannerism, and other things. I gave her those men. And then process. I taught Olivia that every church must have systems in place. Systems in place. And we are not above the systems. And we must go through the same process that everybody goes through. I taught her. Then I moved on to teach her. So this is not process, this is procedure. We need to develop methods in which we deal with issues. And then procreation. I told Olivia, the only way to prove your ministry is for you to be able to give birth to spiritual children. So when we came to Spintex Road, she developed her time in building young people, young ladies, into ministry materials. And then preaching. I've already discussed that. I mentored her on how to preach. And now she's a better preacher than myself. So, Pastor, for your wife to become a ministry material, like we say, or your husband to become a ministry material, it requires mentorship. And I'm saying that the areas of mentorship include people management, pulpit management, process management, systems, and procedure management, methods, structures. Procedure management, there must be structures, and teacher to submit herself to those structures. Then finally, teach her to procreate. And then teach her on how to preach. I committed myself in doing this. And today she's a better preacher than myself. So she's a graduate, you see. She's a graduate of my school of mentorship. Teach your spouse. Take time to develop her. Now, the next word in deal is, the next letter is A, and that is authority. Authority. Numbers 27 verse 20. Give him some of your authority, so the whole Israelite community will obey him. That's God talking to Moses about Joshua. Take some of the authority on you and give it out. There are a lot of pastors who really retain all the authority they have and feel that people can operate without authority. There are also pastors who easily just give out authority to people without responsibility. When you give authority to people without responsibility, they will abuse it. So there are pastors' wives who have authority without responsibility. The title as a pastor's wife is gives them a certain level of authority, and they just can misuse this authority. I didn't want that to happen to Olivia. I'm very protective of Olivia, and to be able to make sure Olivia is well protected, I taught her how to use her authority. So here is how we did. So number one, so it's here. Now, authority, number one, authority must be specific. Must be specific. When we started, and our church was very small, she was the leader of the choir and praise team. Leader of the choir and praise team. Her authority remained there. She was not going to finance department to tell people how to use money. Her authority remained there. And because Olivia is very submissive, she could just listen to me and said, my dear, listen. And the submissiveness is traceable to the disciples I have built in her. I said, you are in charge of the choir and praise team. That is where your authority is. She was not a general overseer. Okay. Some pastors' wives behave like they are general overseers. Some pastors' spouses, some pastors' husbands behave like they are general overseers. They have authority in everywhere, and they are abusing their authority. People are grieved. People are hurt. People are in the church. They are no. So when you see people have become very, very unconcerned about the church and things are going wrong, they are not talking. Somebody is misusing authority, and in most cases, a pastor's spouse can misuse their authority. I see very young pastors, spouses who feel like elderly people in the church should take orders from them. Please, you will collapse the ministry. Humble yourself. You are not a general overseer. Even we as general overseers, our authority is limited. And your pastor's spouse must learn that. I've been in churches where you feel the pastor's spouse is too powerful, giving everybody order without respect. You will kill the church. I remember one of my branch pastors got married, and I had some people from the branch came to me and said, you know something, your son is very humble, but the wife is giving trouble in the church. And these were women leaders, elderly women leaders, who felt that her nature, her authoritarian nature, was hurting them. Unfortunately, the husband was just behind her. And sometimes you see, the fact that you love the person does not mean that you should. The best way to protect your spouse whom you love is to help the person to see reality. Okay. The next is that authority must be submissive. Authority must be submissive. If your spouse is more powerful and authority is not submissive to anybody, you are in trouble. Then the authority must be strategic. It must be strategic. Study the environment of the church before you decide the amount of authority you give to your wife. It ought to be. The fact that she's your wife does not mean she has to be the leader of the women's fellowship. But you feel that if I put her there, it will rather expose her weakness. Let me rather put her create a very nice office, decorate the office, and give her a title. And then it must be situational. Sometimes a situation will call for a certain authority. And usually the situation that calls for certain authority is temporal. The situation will eventually go, and the authority must be taken back. Then finally, very important, the L is leadership. Now, the best way to lead your spouse in ministry is to lead yourself. If you successfully lead yourself, he or she will willingly follow. So this is what I want to share with you just before I end. Quickly. Okay, so let me change the color. Now, define your mission in ministry. Why am I in ministry? Why did God create me? I believe that my calling as a minister is to present a healing word to a hurting world. And that's the mission of the Pleasant Place Church. And my wife must have that clear understanding for the church, for the local church. But actually, my ministry mission is to discover, develop, and deploy leaders from the church to the world, and win leaders from the world to the church. And my wife has this understanding that the church, I'm preaching a healing word to a hurting world. But beyond the church as a minister is to develop leaders. So I spend a lot of money bringing young pastors and hosting them for 1 year. At one point, I had 100 young pastors before the COVID that I was hosting. I was giving them stipends every month, free accommodation, free money, and free teaching for 1 year. Why would my wife support this? Because she has understood my mission. If we're confused, Pastor, your wife will even confuse your ministry more. It's just like having a confused coach. Yesterday, I was watching my beloved Chelsea. Realized that my coach, my very good coach, was confused. So the whole team was very confused. And it gave the opportunity for the Red Devils to make mockery of me. Should I suffer like that? See, when you are a confused pastor, your spouse will also be a confused pastor's destiny. So define your mission. Why are you in ministry? What has God specifically called you to do? And then develop your vision. My vision is to build a 21st century church with a first century church charisma. My wife knows it. That we take advantage of modernity without losing our originality. So we have these graphs in our home that shows the first century church, what they had, and what we want, how we want to transport it into today's world and contextualize it. So whatever I'm doing, she knows that it's based on a mission and a vision. And then determine your deadlines. She knows that we are not living forever. I'm now 54, she is 52. We have a project. What we should be able to achieve by the time we are 60. And she is on it. And we are working towards that. Then, defend your values. So these values. Defend your values. You must have principles that govern your ministry. She knows that my husband will never, my wife will never break these rules. So she becomes very careful. Sometimes I tell pastors, develop the 10 commandments of your ministry. 10 commandments of your ministry. So I'll be ending soon. If you have some questions, please send them to me right now. Just send them to me if you have some questions, and I will help you answer them. Then finally, devise your strategies. Devise your strategies. Very important. Scan the environment. Know the things that are dangerous to your ministry. Talk to your wife. This is the nature of my ministry. These things are dangerous. And show her the things that can help your ministry. So in strategy, you are looking at the things that can hurt your ministry and the things that can help your ministry. Teach us to avoid the things that can help your ministry, and focus on the things that can help your ministry. If you truly want to build a solid, powerful ministry marriage, have a deal. I can't get white on this thing. Okay. Let me go for this. If you want to build a powerful, solid ministry, I'm advising you to have a deal. D-E-A-L. Discipleship. Disciple your spouse. A good Christian will be a good wife, will be a good pastor's wife or pastor's husband, will be a good ministry material. 2E, experience. Allow her to learn on the job and be patient. I've taught you how to mentor your spouse. Give her authority. But the authority must be very measured. See, I've given you 5 X's. And that authority, the authority must be specific, it must be submissive, it must be strategic, and it must be situational. Then finally, leadership. But the leadership I'm advocating here is self-leadership. If you lead yourself, she will definitely follow. Define your mission, develop your vision, determine your deadlines, devise your strategies, and defend your values. This will truly help you build a solid family for ministry. If you have some questions, you can send them in now. So I'm going to see if there are any questions. So Eric Ofori Atta says, I've learned a new thing today, Bishop. Thank you, Eric. Daniel said, knowledge plus understanding is going to wisdom. Jonathan Sean said, Mommy, I salute you. You are indeed a graduate of Titi-Offei, a graduate of Bishop Titi-Offei. We love you. Authority must be submissive. Eric Champon. Gifty Clue says that the teaching is very, very impactful. Wow. Nando Lenu said, humility, powerful. Joseph Esuman said, I'm so much blessed, Papa. Daniel Dujan said, very insightful. Tete Vincent said, mercy. You have any question? Just send them in now. I want to thank all of you for joining. Nadu said, discipleship, experience, authority. Eric Champion, Titi-Offei Mentorship School. Okay. Fantastic. Heaven, say thank you, man of God, Bishop Titi-Offei, for this great work. Okay, thank you too. Thank you so much. Professor Glo says, hey, Nyaba, Charles, bro, please come and learn. We are excited that you guys were able to make time. Esinam says this teaching has been insightful. Apostle AB says share. Okay, thank you all for making time to come to share. Team, are there some questions that I have not seen? So I'm told there are questions. Somebody says, seriously, this is a great teaching, Bishop. I tap into it. Sometimes the wife behaves like she knows more than you do. Yeah, these things will help you. I said, build a good Christian, you'll be fine. Though the key word here is build. Don't destroy. Sometimes you attempt to build, you destroy. Okay? I want to thank you all for making time to join me. It's been such a powerful experience and having the privilege in coming to you and sharing with you. Guess what? I am hosting pastors under 40 for what I call the Pastors Under 40 lockdown. For the 21st to 23rd of September, I'm offering free accommodation, free teaching, and I'm hosting young pastors under 40, lockdown, no phones, no friends, no social media for 3 days. So go to Titi-Offei, Bishop Titi-Offei, you see the advert, and register immediately. God bless you. Thank you for joining me. Okay, so I'm assuming that I'm not seeing. Maybe the next time we do, my team will be bringing the questions here for me. Somebody wants an audio version of that. I think it's possible. I think it's possible they can get you the audio version. Okay, so Hayford says, please, what if you got married before you became a pastor and your spouse is, if not interested in anything ministry, that is not trainable? So I've given you various 6 areas of your life that a woman can help you. Ministry is not only because the woman is in the pulpit. The woman can take care of your children to free you to do the work of God. It's ministry. If the woman can work and support you financially, it's ministry. You married before you became a pastor. The woman didn't set out to marry a pastor. You have become a pastor. You have to understand that this could be very traumatic for the woman. It could be very, very traumatic for the woman, and you need patience to be able to get her along with you. So please be patient. Find something that she can do. If your definition of ministry is very narrow, this can cause trouble. Oh, somebody wants me to finish the animals in the church. Not today. Maybe I'll find time to do it. Edith said, we pray for the grace of God to be teachable as pastors' spouses for the growth of the ministry and the kingdom. Yes, Edith. Good. Okay, Emmanuel Kwanzaa said, please, Daddy, how can a young minister find a right partner for your ministry as a minister? Please help me. So, Kwanzaa, this is a short question with a long answer. First, I'll say pray about it, define your mission, develop your vision, know who you are first before you attend. Maybe I should find time to talk to the unmarried minister of the gospel, how to find a partner for ministry. Please, sir, can this apply to pastors who do not pastor their own churches? Yes. You must teach your wives to be part of ministry. When I was doing the discipleship, I said, seeking the kingdom, you must teach your wives to be part of the ministry. Michelle Ampoff, Daddy, please, can you finish the definition of the 14 kinds of animals in the Michelle Ampoff? I'm not finishing it. I have a teaching called The Runners and Ruiners of Vision. Maybe I should teach that one, and that will bring. Beatrice says, Daddy, please, how should a pastor's wife handle criticism from people? First, assess yourself to see whether those criticisms are constructive or destructive. Maybe what they are saying is true, so you have to look at it. If it's not constructive but destructive, you need to be able to have a shield. And I'm always saying that your husband should be that shield. Maybe the people might have misunderstood something, but I told my wife, use your critics as your quality assurance managers. Take what they are asking that you do and make sure. For instance, my wife is very, very critical of my sermons, and that has helped me become a very better pastor. She would just say, this sermon you preached, they didn't go well. This sermon went well. This sermon, I don't think it agrees with the scriptures. And so when I'm preaching, I know that my quality assurance manager is sitting in the congregation. Theophilus Wupo says, please, what if you are not married, but you know that there is a call of God on your life? Yeah, so that must be part of the decision as to who you marry. So you must be part of it. Don't marry for sex. Marry for ministry. Marry for your mission. Marry for something bigger than sex. It's very important. Wilfred Isaiah Kojo Kokonu says, we have learned so much from you. Thank you, Bishop. Thank you all, guys. Thank you. Thank you. The Lord bless you. Bismarck Asempa says, how can you help your wife to develop a zeal for ministry? Bismarck, discipleship. Go back and look at the discipleship strategies I taught. It will truly, truly help you. Okay, please, Can you teach on the systems and procedures? Dennis, Dunamis, Opukwajima, maybe another time.